I remember, it's probably the same conversation. You made a comment that the implementation is what you actually want to get to and what you enjoy. So I found that really refreshing. Knowing in my mind where we were 6 or 8 months ago in terms of lacking data on existing customers, lacking data on who's churning and why are they churning, and how do we kind of begin to build the appropriate cohorts and measurements that understand 5 layers down into the business what's actually sort of happening. And I'd say it was a little bit intimidating at the time to think about the amount of heavy lifting that would be required in analysis to aggregate all this data, then format it, prepare it, do the analysis on it, start to draw some conclusions from it. And we did all of that. Not all, I know it's a never ending thing, but we, if you will, did all of it way faster than I thought. I think we had a need to move quickly just in general. But the other thing I think that made us comfortable moving quickly was, I think, some combination of, I think, the way you market yourself, kind of LinkedIn and elsewhere. It worked well, Dan. We got a sense very comfortably that you're a legit guy. It's a legit business. This is not a flyer that we're taking somewhere. And so I think we got comfortable quickly that this was a good bet to make. And it was unlikely that this was going to kind of go sideways because you're a flaky guy or something like that. I think we got good comfort level in kind of the quality of you and your service pretty quickly. And it became apparent quickly that this is an area that you are definitely a subject matter expert in. I think I might have just had this assumption at the beginning that there would be kind of a typical consulting engagement. We would get a playbook at the end of it, and then, the implementation phase of it would kind of be up to us, or you would come back and refer us to somebody, or something like that. I remember, it's probably the same conversation. You made a comment that the implementation is what you actually want to get to and what you enjoy. So I found that really refreshing, where this was not going to be, this is part of the confidence. Maybe this is why we made a decision to engage with you as quickly as we did. It didn't feel like we were going to spend all this money, get a report dumped on our desk, and then we were left to figure out everything else on our own. The fact that you were enthusiastic about saying, I can then come and start to, do the implementation, made me feel that when we get to implementation, we're going to start to be able to put some runs on the board quickly. And I like the quick win approach, where you kind of divided things up into these are the quick wins and these aren't. Because one of the things that allowed me to really do is manage expectations with my investors well, right? Because early on, they were asking questions like, what has happened in the last week or 2 weeks? Like what was accomplished? And to be able to come back and just say, we had this list, we checked off these 3 items, and the next 3 are what we're going to do over the next 1 or 2 weeks. Just made that question go away. You know what I mean? They stopped asking that question, which was nice. Feedback I think I really got was an appreciation that we were doing an assessment, and that we were kind of going into this in kind of a methodical way, rather than being very reactive and knee-jerk kind of right from the very beginning. So I think that kind of built a certain degree of confidence that, assuming the assessment is done well, we're going to have this good foundational shared experience and document that we can build upon. And we're not putting band-aids on the problem, trying to piecemeal it, but we took kind of a holistic approach. The tone of it was 180 degrees opposite of 2 quarters ago, where we were not having any conversations around why it is we're doing this, what we want them to wrap their arms around, what they have to bring back and articulate. The combination of you coming in, defining that project, separating the kind of low-hanging fruit from the more longer-term things that are going to be more of a heavy lift, got us to a point where we were able to go into a board meeting yesterday, and the entire conversation was, first of all, it was conversational. We're talking about churn. It was, here's all these assumptions, here's what we're hearing, and somebody throws out their thought or their question or their idea, and suddenly there's like 6 people in the room that are kind of swirling on this whole topic. And the data, and everybody had read the data ahead of time, so we weren't presenting like, here's a spreadsheet with all these rows out. Like, everybody had read the data ahead of time, came in prepared, and we were talking about business decisions that need to get made, and not talking about like how did we get here, but where are we going to be tomorrow. Everybody's appreciated that, and it was a lot of work to get there, right? But we came I think we came a really long way in a pretty short period of time. Trying to play whack-a-mole, trying to put band-aids on particular issues, and I allowed that to sort of go on because I don't think I fully appreciated at first. It took me probably a couple of quarters to really say this thing is bigger, wider, deeper than I thought it was. So when we finally said, here's the proper way to do this, I think everybody appreciated that. I mean, I kind of view the whole thing as like a big continuous series of deliverables, and everyone has kind of iterated on the one before it. So it's kind of incrementally getting better with each kind of version and pass and refinement to it. And so we've had a couple of board meetings. I mean, there was, and then we just had another one yesterday. So we're like, these board meetings, the iteration from, month to month, quarter to quarter, through, call it a 3 board meeting span of time, and all the iterations there got us exactly to, I think, the point where we needed to sort of get to. So how would I describe as a CEO? I mean, it felt to me like, so what I would value, and I would imagine most CEOs would value, is a business conversation, more so than a sales pitch that's oriented around outcomes. And you were, I think, good at quickly trying to connect the dots between, the building blocks that would need to get put into place early in a process, but what the ultimate business outcomes were going to be. And by talking in terms of outcomes, it just creates confidence. And I think, again, and the way you spoke about it really conveyed to me very quickly that this wasn't your first rodeo. And yeah, on the one hand, every company's probably got its own nuances and differences, but there's certain themes that are probably pretty common almost all the time. And you kind of knew what those themes were. And so we were able to kind of cut to the chase pretty quick. I think this is the first and only time I've ever reached out to somebody who was kind of marketing a service like yours on LinkedIn. I've seen others, but I never reach out myself. So you're the exception, because this was the burning problem that, like, I just wasn't going to delegate somebody to go figure this out. So whereas most other things, I probably would just forward something to somebody and say, hey, look at this. This is kind of interesting, and let them kind of run with it or not.
Follow me for more strategic SaaS growth insights and practical leadership advice.
We'll be a really good reference for you. So I'm happy to speak with whoever, you might be getting close to closing a deal with, and feel free to offer me up as often as you want to.